and this is Crime Talk, the most fact-driven, unbiased true crime channel. Now, there's a lot of people out there trying to copy Crime Talk, but, well, often imitated, never duplicated. Thank you for joining us this evening. As I stated, my name is Scott Reisch. It's my pleasure to be here. We'll kind of give a little introduction here for a lot of people, maybe if you haven't previously joined our Crime Talk family. My name is Scott Reisch. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney. I've been doing this now for 26 years, so I think I have a pretty good understanding of what should be coming down the pike as it relates to a criminal case, and hopefully I can explain it to you in simple terms that everyone can understand. That was the goal of this channel. When we started it, I got so frustrated on seeing how the evening news handled cases. They were more interested in just simply having their little reporter stand outside the courthouse and say something, and it really usually made no sense whatsoever. It was rather frustrating, and nobody knew what the hearing was or what it really meant. So that's why we started this channel, and here we are, over 32 million views later, 185,000 subscribers later. We're still here. We're still building on those audience numbers, which I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. And if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell so that you receive these notifications to say, hey, Scott's got something to say. Let's talk about it. That's why we're here. But it wouldn't happen without you all, and we understand and appreciate, and I assure you that I do not take it lightly or for granted that you all tune in to see what we have to say here on Crime Talk, because we know there's lots of other channels you can watch. There's lots of other things that you could be doing with your time. So the fact that you take your time and watch us, well, we try to make it worth your while because we do not take you for granted. Thank you very much. All right. So, like I said, this is our Tuesday night live program. Hopefully you were able to catch our videos that we put up this week. It's good to be back in the Crime Talk studios. Always nice to get away, but it's, doing remote is always tough. There's always some sort of issue with the sound or what have you. So I apologize for that, but we want to still bring you your daily Crime Talk fix. I don't know about you all, but I have found it where I need to do the Crime Talk fix. I feel bad if I miss it because I will get emails and various messages from people saying, Scott, where are you? Is everything okay? You didn't put a video up today. Sometimes things happen. I just can't do it. But for the most part, I try to put a video up every day, Monday through Friday. So, like I said, appreciate everybody taking the time to do that. So let's talk about a couple of things. Obviously, probably the two big stories I think that we brought to you first on Monday was the issue of the East Idaho News, who originally fought subpoenas ducis tecums to produce information and to have one of their reporters testify at a change of venue hearing. Then apparently the East Idaho News had a change of heart and said, hey, since the prosecutor's now asking for this information as well, why don't you let us compile it for you and we'll give it to both parties. And then the East Idaho News, out of fairness, basically said, if we're turning it over to them, we have an obligation to release it. We thought that they thought they had an ethical obligation to turn it over to everybody to see. And, it's somewhat interesting, the readership, clearly lots of views and clicks coming in for East Idaho News, but there's other channels that maybe get more information. But it really shows us that, guess what? People are, in fact, interested in the Daybell-Vallow, Chad Daybell matter. And I think ultimately the court will deny change of venue. I mean, I can tell you I've filed for change of venue several times over the last 26 years. I've only had one that was granted outright. It was in a small community. The judge is like, yeah, we're doing a change of venue because literally the radio station, I think the one radio station in town where everybody knew, talked about it, and basically had expressed a lot of opinions. But the court then moved it to the same judicial district, so it was a quasi change of venue. And we just went to a larger county within that judicial district, and we called in, I think it was like 600 jurors. And guess what? Out of those 600 people, yep, that's right, we found 12 people who had never heard anything about this case. And even though this is a case, the Lori-Vallow, Chad Daybell matter, that people are familiar with around the world, we're still probably going to find people that know little to nothing about it, or at least will tell the judge under oath that I haven't formed an opinion, and therefore I can, listen to the law that the court gives you, listen to the evidence that's presented, the legal and competent evidence that comes in at trial, and reserve judgment until you hear all the evidence in the case. Bam, there's a qualified juror. Okay. Now the question is, do you think they'll be able to do that? All right. So I have a question here, and we've got the comment section up right in front of me, so I'll try to be reading those questions. But sometimes they go by very fast, and we've never begged for super chats, I assure you of that. But it does get highlighted in big, bold stuff here. And so Michael Ostel, if I think I was getting that correct. Hey, Scott, you said you agreed with the death sentence. Could you personally push the button and take someone's life? Mick from Australia. Well, Mick from Australia, the death penalty is a hot button issue. Here in the state of Colorado, for example, we don't have the death penalty as of, I think it was July 1 of last year. Actually, July 1 of this year, I do believe. And so it's off the table. Now, I've had a case where the DA said, we're going to go death. And we worked our butts off and did a lot of mitigation on that case. And ultimately, the DA said, we aren't going to go death anymore. So we just had a good old-fashioned trial, knockdown, drag-out trial, which is great. When the DA says, hey, we want to kill your client, you're like, oh, you're not going to kill my client. Oh, no. Here we go. But here's the thing that people need to understand. Like, each state can decide on their own, right? Because we're a republic here in the great United States that says, here you are. Each state makes their own laws, and each state can decide whether they have a death penalty or not. Some states will probably always have a death penalty as long as it's found to be constitutional by the United States Supreme Court, which it has been found to be not constitutional, and then it was found to be constitutional again, as long as certain parameters were put in place. Really what it comes down to is, yes, you and me, if we're charged with a crime, we get due process, right? We get to go into court, see the evidence, all of our constitutional rights that you have. But when you are charged with a death penalty case, you get super due process, all right? So we're going to make sure you have really good attorneys. We're going to make sure you have the resources to investigate, mitigation, anything that will, be one of those mitigating factors that's usually outlined in a statute that says these are the reasons why you should not impose the death penalty. These are the aggravating factors of why you should consider imposing the death penalty if the jury gets to that phase. So, Mick, to answer your questions, could you personally push the button? I don't know. Like I said, I believe in the Constitution, and I believe you have to go with what the law says. There's lots of people that, like in our United States Constitution, and sometimes it's scary what people say that they will agree with and disagree with. You've seen, should we get away with, do away with freedom of religion? It's causing hate and discontent, and some people are really mean, and they have like the man on the street, and they're like, yeah, we should get rid of that. Get rid of the First Amendment. You're just like, what? Right? Some people want to get rid of the Second Amendment. Why not just get rid of the Fourth Amendment while you're at it, right? I mean, it's only protects you from unlawful searches and seizures, right? What does that really matter? I mean, what have you got to hide? Well, you never know. When the government comes knocking on your doorstep, you may say, I don't have to turn anything over at all. Get a warrant. And so the death penalty in the United States is constitutional, according to the United States Supreme Court. There's been some recent decisions. I don't recall the one off the top of my head, the name of it, but it came out of Mississippi, where the inmate basically said, hey, you're going to inject me with the lethal dose of drugs, and, that could hurt. And I think it was Justice Thomas that wrote the opinion and said, hey, you don't have a right to a painless death under the death penalty. But, back in the late 60s, early 70s, when there was challenges to that, it was considered cruel and unusual punishment, what have you. So then they went, we'll do lethal injection. Some states you can still do firing squad. I think it was just the other day, was it South Carolina or something? They were thinking about doing the firing squad because they couldn't get enough of the doses of medicine because a lot of the companies weren't going to sell it if they were going to be used for lethal injection mixtures and things like that. So the question then is, to answer mixed question, it's a long way to get it to mixed question, but could you actually push the button and take someone's life? Well, hopefully I'll never have to be in that particular situation. Think about it. We have governors, judges that do that every day. We have jurors that do that every day. And they decide whether somebody gets the death penalty or not. And although they're saying yes, they're really putting their finger on the button, so to speak. When it comes to the death penalty, like I said, I had a client where they were going to try to go after the death penalty. They didn't do it. I personally think a lot of the death penalty arguments for the arguments to get rid of the death penalty, one is the greatest expense. Okay. I think on average, a number I saw a while back was, if somebody gets the death penalty, they're going to be on death row and there's going to be litigation, and it'll probably cost a good $20 million over the course of that time to actually pursue and litigate whether it was imposed with sufficient due process. Because remember, the Fifth Amendment, United States, says that the government cannot take your life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And that's why it's legal. It says, hey, the government has the right to take your life, your liberty, your freedom, or your property. But it's got to be with due process. If they're taking your property, it's called, they're going to pay you for it. Eminent domain. Liberty, well, got to have a right to fair trial. And obviously, if they want to take your life, they can, but they got to do it, and it's got to be justified. It's going to be given great scrutiny, and you're going to have hyper due process, which is a good thing because it's the ultimate penalty. So the question is it worth it, right? Is it worth it? Is what this person did worth spending another $20 million trying to have them sent and receive a dose of lethal injection when you could spend that $20 million incarcerating him, yes, or her, and that person would never get out of prison. They were going to die in prison. Well, the life expectancy of most people in prison, I think, is in the early 60s. Not exactly getting the best healthcare system. And let's face it, it can be dangerous to your health in prison. So you have to look at that. But then on the other hand, you have people and the atrocious things that human beings can do to other people. I know a lot of people don't like to think about the horrific things that people do, right? If you try to talk about it here on YouTube, Facebook, they'll probably get you censored. You get into too much graphic detail, maybe they'll just shut you down. The news doesn't cover much of anything. But, if you've ever seen somebody, for example, let's say a a horrific crime scene where somebody's been dismembered. All right? And you sit there and you're looking at this stuff like, how could somebody do this to another person? What kind of person does this, right? As a defense attorney, you say, hey, everybody, you should be able to find something good to say about anybody, no matter what they've done. And as a defense attorney, you never are condoning what somebody did. You're protecting their rights. You're not up there saying, this is a referendum on, chopping people up or something like that. That's not it. Okay. Was it justified under the law or not? Did it happen? Was this the person that did it? That's what it is. But some of the depravity that the things that people can do to other people, I think a lot of people really just try to ignore it. I think a lot of people like to live in a bubble, okay? And I get it. I mean, when my kids were growing up, I'm a criminal defense attorney, man. My kids knew the difference between county jail and DOC. Where are you going, Dad? Oh, I got to go to, go see a client, on a Saturday or a Sunday. They had a case coming up. Oh, really, Dad? Are they in, prison or are they in county jail? But I still tried to protect my kids from the bad stuff that went on. But I also tried to expose them and let them know there are bad people out there in the world that will take advantage of you, that will, for lack of a better term, stick you in the back, cut your throat, literally for a few dollars. Okay? And it's nice to sit and say, hey, if we just gave everybody a big hug, everything's going to be wonderful, everything's going to be great, and the world will be a much greater place. Okay? That's nice. I get it. Okay? I would like to see that. Who wouldn't like to see that? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Be a great little utopia. But you have to remember, what does utopia mean? And when you translate it, it means no place. It doesn't exist. So, as I've tried to tell lots of people over the years that try to explain, well, how can you do this? How can you be a defense attorney? Or you have this opinion, you're a defense attorney. I'm a realist. Okay? I like to find the good in all people. I get up and argue, say, yes, my client did this, but they are redeemable. Argue that to the court. And I think most people are. I think I could probably count maybe on one hand what I would constitute as pure evil, where it literally, you're just like, oh yeah, this guy is going away and he scares the hell out of me. And if he gets out, he will do whatever he's accused of again times 10. I've had clients like that, still zealously represent them, I assure you. But you're thinking, wow, I hope the jury gets this one right. Because, there are some dangerous people out there. People say, oh my God, how can you be a defense attorney and say that? Shouldn't everybody, there should be no prisons and it would be good. No. There are scary people out there, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And each and every one of them is entitled to a defense. That's what separates us, from the bad guys, so to speak. But you have to be a realist. And there's some people that are like, hey man, you're just not wired right. You're not wired right. You're a danger to the community. We got to send you away. So, like I said, the death penalty stuff, it's legal. It's legal in the federal system. Happens probably more in the federal system than anyone. I haven't looked at any numbers, but it seems like there's always good federal death penalty cases going on. When I mean good, I mean being litigated to the bone. I was on a case down in New Mexico a couple years ago where they were going to go death on a couple of the co-defendants in the case. Like I said, they had, I think, 3 attorneys, two trial attorneys, an appellate attorney, research attorney, and multiple investigators. When they go death, it's a big deal. Okay. So back to the question here from Michael, I think it was Mick from Australia. Could you push the button? I think if I had to, Mick, depend on what would be my role. Obviously, I wouldn't be the warden there, wouldn't be a politician. But if that was the job and it was legal and it's been through all the checks and balances and processes, yeah, somebody did something horrific to, my children, or to the lovely Miss Kristen, probably sign me up. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think I'd be the turn the other cheek and forgive, and it's not going to accomplish anything. And I've seen that where, the prosecutors have pursued cases and the family was like, no, we do not want this to go forward as a death penalty case. And, I think maybe I'd like to think I'd be that guy. But then you never know. You never know until you've been in that position, right? I mean, I've talked about this before. I had an employee steal several hundreds of thousands of dollars from me over the years. Well, guess what? That pissed me off, right? We contacted the police. That individual is currently in the Department of Corrections, serving an 8-year sentence, okay? Normally, I'm not a big fan of that. And all I wanted was my money. I just wanted my money. Someone from his family is going to pony up, give me my money. But if you don't pay, then you got to go to prison. It's just the way it is. It's a theft case. What does any defense attorney ever tell their client in a theft case? Come up with the money. It's always about the money, okay? And when they say it's not about the money, they're lying, because then it's really about the money. It's always about the money. That particular case for me, I was a victim of it. It pissed me off. I just wanted my money back. If they give me my money back, didn't care. But, when you just ignore it and act like, oh, I'm never going to pay you, okay, fine. There's an easy way and there's a hard way. I've said this before. And everybody always picks the hard way. They always pick the hard way. And so, all right, go to prison. Then you get out and start doing it. In fact, I just got a restitution check. That's right. Restitution from somebody in custody. You know how much that restitution check was? $5.86. I had to be paid back in about 200 years. So, just reality. I don't know. I'm not sure it was worth the death penalty, but maybe, good running over in an alley or something. I don't know. Duty Ron, support the Crime Talk community from Crime Talk with Duty Ron. Thank you. Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with Duty Ron.
He's got a good, he's a NYPD detective, former detective.
Oh, that would be interesting. I like talking to detectives. For a lot of people who don't know, my vice is that I enjoy a good cigar, and I am a member at a hotel that has a cigar bar. It's called Churchill's bar there, and you pay, you have your cigars in the humidor and what have you, but they let everybody in, and that's what I love about cigars. Some people are like, oh my God, you can't smoke cigars. My daughter, oh, you can't smoke cigars, they're gonna kill you. But guess what? Everything's gonna kill you. Just did my physical last Friday. Anything can kill you. So you might as well at least have one vice, right? I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I don't womanize. I just want to go home and enjoy a good cigar at the end of the day on my patio, watch some TV, and relax, right? But the good thing about a cigar is you never know who you're going to meet. Some of the most interesting people I've ever met, I've always said this, have been either A, in aviation, or B, having a cigar. And oftentimes there are other people in the law enforcement come in, particularly cops. And I love talking to cops because the funny thing is we usually have very similar notions, all right? And most cops I know are really good guys. I mean, yeah, we've all run into a couple of jerks over the years, but I'm telling you, there are some good ones out there, and they're doing the right thing. They know what they can do, what they can't do, and they don't cross those lines. And the ones that do, bye-bye. You need to go away. There was a police officer here just in Aurora the other day. I think the story came out I think it was late Friday or last week. We're trying to get a little more information on it for me, but they were the Aurora Police Department, which has a notoriously long history of officer abuse. Okay, and I'm not speaking out of school here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, the Aurora Police Department in Aurora, Colorado, has a terrible reputation. Okay, I can't get into things because one of the cases is pending, but if I was, say, an Aurora gang cop, yeah, if you're probably not going to trust you at all. No. They just push everything. They have a terrible reputation. And there was a police officer caught on video. I think they were making contact with a homeless guy or something, and somebody ran. That guy didn't run. The police officer pistol whipped the guy like 14 times. He had a big knot on his head where he got hit. And apparently he justified it, thinking it's all fine. Not a problem here. He had his gun. He was like holding it at the guy's head, saying, I'm gonna shoot you. This is the police officer. And so he was charged with assault as well as he should have been. That's not policing. That is simply abusing people in public. All right. And it was captured on body cam. Well, guess what? They also charged the partner or the other officer that was there who didn't intervene and stop it. And that law has always been on the books for a very, very long time here in the state of Colorado. It was just never enforced. Well, now they're enforcing it, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? The only way you're going to get rid of bad cops is you have to have the good cops say, you're not welcome here. All right? Think about it. What other organization protects people like that, where we're going to say we're going to keep our bad people here no matter how bad they are because we're going to defend them to the ends of the earth, right? Only thing I can think of is A, police officers, and B, probably three people, teachers unions, and three public sector employees, right? You can't fire anybody in the government, and police officers for the longest time as well. We can't break the thin blue line. That'd be wrong. I'll be shunned for doing that. And, that's kind of like having some moral courage to do the right thing, even when it's difficult to do those things, kind of defending your oath. You have to do that. Like lawyers, we have to self-regulate. We have to say, hey, I remember one of the hardest things I ever had to do. It was an attempted homicide case. And my client was agreeing to testify, and everybody knew that she was represented by me, and she was going to testify against a co-defendant. Well, at some point, the other attorney went and interviewed my client, knowing that she was represented without contacting me, and had an interview with him. And the DA was like, what the hell are you doing, Scott? I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't know anything about it. And the co-defendant was, trying to get my client to help their case out. And I get it. But the attorney knew better. And you can't cross the line when you do those types of things. It's just not worth it. And the attorney that did the bad deed had brought on a new attorney that as his co-counsel, and he wasn't aware of it. But it was clear ethical violation. The court all but said, this needs to be taken care of. Get it, Judge. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more, right? And one of the hardest things I had to do is I had to file a grievance against these two attorneys. One really didn't anything, but he was attorney of record, and I had to do it. And I told him, I'm like, I have to do this. And he was the one guy was a jerk about it because he was the one that did it. The other attorney was like, hey man, if it were me and I was in your spot, I would do the exact same thing. And we even talked about it years later. And I said, man, I hated doing that. I hated it. I said, because I have so much respect for you. And he said, Scott, you had to do that. It all turned out fine for him because he didn't know about it. He wasn't a participant in it. But he says, you had to do that. That's how we are supposed to keep good attorneys here and get rid of the bad attorneys, because if we don't self-regulate ourselves, who else is going to do it? A lot of people say, oh, I can't go forward. He's an attorney. What do I mean? You have to do the right thing. And that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And that's what police officers are going to have to do as well. I remember being in the military, they talk about the leadership traits and principles. And one of the things of being a great leader is, you have to have that moral courage to do the right thing in adversity when everyone else doesn't want you to do it. It's not the popular thing to do. So yeah, there's tough cases. There's some real bad, most cops are good. I really do. And going back to, when you sit and talk with like defense attorneys, and that's why I love having a cigar. I remember having cigars with prosecutors. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you had a cigar. Oh yeah, I love a good cigar. Well, have a seat. Let's chat. And it reminded me of my days as a judge advocate in the Marine Corps. Like, you knew you were adversaries, but you still were professionals with people. And, you battle it out in the courtroom. It's like, oh, man, I can't believe you asked for that. Oh, you're ridiculous, A good friend of mine, George, he was a prosecutor. I was defense attorney. And then, we haggle and fight. Oh, I can't believe you did that. We go to our office, cool down, and get the call and say, hey, you want to go for a run? Yeah. See you in 15 minutes. You coming over this weekend too? Yeah. Bring the kids. And that's just the way it was. And I think the world would be a much better place if it actually functioned like that, because there's so many people that just get ingrained. And I've said this before and I will say it again. The prosecutors that rise up, what is the greatest impact, whether they're going to be a good prosecutor, what's going to make a good defense attorney a great defense attorney? In my humble opinion, it is who trains them. If the guy who trains them is like, a district court deputy, and he gets sent down to county court to train all the new deputy DAs, and that person is just an ass, guess what? He's training all these new people to be nothing but an ass. And that's what they will do throughout. So, you need good people training them, just like you need good DAs, good defense attorneys training young baby defense attorneys to do the honorable, ethical thing. Don't waste the court's time. Don't run for frivolous defenses, things like that. Same thing with police. You need to have good cops training the young ones, because they're going to do what the good cops tell them to do. So yeah, I don't know, tough world. All right, the other question is out there. Politicians, boy, do politicians seem to have a better set of standards than all of us. Boy, do they get a pass. And who could I be referring to? Well, at least today, it's old Governor Cuomo. Well, the governor of New York. A lot of people asking him to resign. But of course, what does Governor Cuomo do? No, he attacks. He didn't do anything wrong. All those people are attacking me. And this is what is wrong with career politicians. Maybe if they thought they could actually go do another job and they couldn't make money off the public tit for years by doing nothing, they wouldn't be so afraid to leave public office. A public official should kind of be like, I don't know, Scott Reich getting the privilege to do CrimeTalk and say, wow, you know what? I enjoy this. This is a lot of fun, but it could all go away tomorrow. And I'm thankful for everyone that would sit and take their time to watch us. Like I look now, we currently have 973 people that are watching that have, 973 other things that they could be doing, but they're taking the time for us. So by God, Scott takes that responsibility pretty seriously, and he wants to make sure that it is interesting so that it goes up even higher, for sure. But if I were just to sit and take it for granted, and I was like, well, there's not enough people, people would say, what do you, get over yourself, Scott, right? I mean, I've said it once, and I've said it again. I've told my kids this from a very young age. There are two types of people in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Those that are humble and those that are about to be. And have you ever noticed how humble a lot of people are when they get that first public official job, right? Whether they're a judge, a politician elected. I mean, we're talking city council, to state legislator, to, as a somebody going to the federal, being a member of Congress. They're always so humble and grateful, and then they stick around. You right? Was it like maybe that second term they figured, hey, I'm in a safe seat. I'm going to get voted for retention if I'm a judge, and then they become that ass because they think people are entitled, and you start having people say, yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor, all day long, or, oh my gosh, Senator or Congressperson, people kissing your butt when this guy's no more qualified to do the job other than, frankly, he got elected because nobody else wanted to do it. And this guy's like, oh, I got no other prospects for a real job. I can't do it. Sure. It starts going to their head that they actually believe that they're important. Well, they're not that important. It should be a humble experience that they're doing the people's work and not there to reap the public benefit rewards like, well, I don't know, Governor Cuomo. And we can go down the list on both sides of any party, and you can obviously see abuses by both sides. If it was up to me, one and done, baby. One term, get them out. Can't be there long enough to establish too much power. Can't be there long enough to screw something up so bad. And if they are going to screw it up, hopefully the next guy or woman can fix it. It is, Governor Cuomo needs to go. And that's my humble opinion. All right. We are all flawed human individuals. We are all hypocrites. It's just a matter of degree. So, the old, well, when you're perfect, you can stop throwing stones, that thing. No, we're all flawed individuals. And I get it. Nobody wants to be judged at their worst moment in their life. But when you are a public official, your job is to do it better and cleaner than the next guy. Because why? You're there making or enforcing the laws. And if you can't even follow the laws that are in place, how can you have any legitimacy telling other people they need to follow the law? And if you don't do it, well, you're going to go to jail. But, if Cuomo ignores the laws and retaliates and commits unlawful sexual contact offenses, he thinks he's above the law. And he isn't. And the DA, I saw some information this evening, the Albany DA is saying, hey, we're looking at these incidents. They'd be prosecuted in Albany County in New York, where the capital is. And they're going to get the information from the Attorney General's report, all the backup information, all the reports. And the Albany DA is actually encouraging people to contact them if they believe they've been a victim of Governor Cuomo. Now, obviously, we're going to give everybody the presumption of innocence, but I think Governor Cuomo can defend himself as he did today and basically called all of his complaining witnesses absolute liars. And maybe he was too busy writing his book with government employees, staff helping him do that. He wasn't paying attention to what he was doing around him. I don't know, but if it were you or me, ladies and gentlemen, we'd more likely be charged, sued, criminally prosecuted. It just, I don't know. Like I said, it's my pet peeve. If you're a public official or you're, have a lot of influence because maybe you have a lot of money, suddenly those investigations drag on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And nothing ever comes to it. And basically nobody ever cares. And then someday they'll hold a little press conference saying, oh, we looked at it. The statute of limitations is going to run. We just don't think that we can prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt. And we have an ethical obligation not to bring charges if we don't think we should do that. And like a city in Washington, I mean, I've thought about it for years that and I should have done this years ago when I was in the Marine Corps. I had an opportunity, I could have waved into the DC bar when it was like, $200. But at the time I was a young attorney, wife, 2 kids, no money, student loans, and I didn't have the extra $200 to wave in. I could do it now. And I think I'm going to open an office in DC, hang a shingle out there, and just basically say, we do investigations. We'll review all the documents and wait out the prosecutors. Because let's face it, nothing ever happens. Nobody ever gets charged in Washington, D.C. That must be the best jurisdiction to work in. Oh, that's right. Some of the best prosecutors I've ever seen have come from D.C. What do they prosecute? Oh, that's right. All the drugs and gun crime. Why? Because it's a federal enclave, a federal jurisdiction there. So all the everyday petty crime gets prosecuted under federal law by United States prosecutors. So they're pretty busy. They just don't have time for all that, white collar, money grubbing politician stuff. But I don't know. The Attorney General, who's a Democrat, Cuomo is a Democrat, basically said that his excuses and justifications ring hollow. And I saw that even President Biden told old Cuomo that he should resign. Of course, maybe a couple of questions as to whether the president, who likes to sniff people's hair, do some weird and inappropriate things. But hey, like I said, you can go to the other side too. You got just as horrible of human beings as well. Question K. Scott, what is your opinion on high-profile witnesses or potential suspects doing interviews? I asked this question pertaining to Melanie Gibb and Melanie Pulaski in the Daybell case. It depends, okay? If they're my client, I assure you, I'm going to tell them, keep your mouth shut. Because you go out there talking and telling everybody all this stuff, guess what? The world of the internet is going to find out if you're accurate or not. And it just looks bad. It looks like you're showboating. It looks like you're trying to get your 15 minutes of fame. Why? Okay? You're a witness in a criminal case. You will tell your story on the stand under oath. That's when you tell your story. Or maybe when the case is over. Otherwise, you look like a media whore trying to get your 15 minutes of fame, trying to make a few bucks off of this particular incident, right? I mean, think back. I guess he really didn't do it, but remember Kato Kalin was the housemate of O.J. Simpson, and then he had like book deals and radio shows and things like that. And he, kind of played this stupid surfer dude or whatever his shtick was at the time. If anybody near that guy should have just told him to shut your mouth. These potential witnesses, the Melanie Gibb, the Pulaski, shut your mouth. I mean, you're not helping anything, and anything you say is potential impeachment, right? You say something different, even off just a couple of sentences in court. Oh, really? Well, you said this in an interview, didn't you? Well, yeah, but okay. I mean, I get it. There's always going to be people coming out want to tell their side of the story, but any good attorney is going to tell their client, shut up. Okay? Shut up. You're not doing anything. And I'm sure the prosecution probably just puts their head down, runs their hands over their head. I think some of them don't have any hair, so they want to run it through their hair that they don't have. And they just oh, God. I mean, you're not helping the prosecution. Frankly, more than likely, you're helping the defense. So I'm not sure if maybe that's their motive. I don't know. But a good question, Kay. Shouldn't do it. Just like you tell your client, if you're a key witness in that particular case, you don't talk about it until you get to court or you're being deposed. If it's a civil matter, just keep your mouth shut. Okay. Let's see here. We got off. Here we go. Scott needs 350. What does that mean? I'm sorry. I don't know. What's that mean? Go back up here and see. Day 78 of asking to know if you've ever represented a celebrity or high-profile client. Yes, I have. I have represented some very, very successful people in both business. I've represented sports people and their family. And yes, I have. And sometimes they're the great clients, and sometimes they can be some of the worst. It just remembers. Yeah, Elise, that's what I thought about the juror from the Chauvin case. Referring to that. Yeah, I mean, you just got to... And I think we maybe mentioned this once or twice. Maybe you can find a case where you need to run to the press. I don't think I've found that particular case. If you have a high-profile case, client where the news wants to, more than likely, as a defense attorney, they're trying to show how bad and evil person your client is. So nothing good is going to come from that. I know some attorneys, particularly on the civil side, that think, using the press and public media is a good thing. What I've seen, though, normally is it backfires sometimes. You have to be very careful. There's some attorneys that are very, very savvy at it, but you also get into a lot of ethical issues relating to extrajudicial statements that could affect a case that you just have to be careful, particularly if it's your client. The best thing is keep your mouth shut. And the other thing is, think about who's the guy representing himself now in California? God, why am I brain freeze? No, the lawyer, Michael Avenatti. Sorry, Michael Avenatti. Right? Remember how he got up there and was like, "This is a travesty of a mockery of a sham. I am innocent. I will be found not guilty. These charges are frivolous," and blah, 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 blah. Ugh. Well, like I said, how many people are there in the world? 2, right? Humble, and those that are about to be. Avenatti should have been humbled. He should have said, "Wow, these are serious allegations. We take them rather seriously. We're obviously going to review the evidence, and we don't believe that the government will be able to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt unanimously to a jury of 12, and we look forward to our day in court." I think that'd be a much more appropriate response than travesty of a mockery of a sham. Now, Avenatti didn't say that, but I do that. That's a travesty of a mockery of a sham. And obviously he was convicted. He was humbled, right? There's a difference between, you can be confident, you just don't have to be cocky. And that's what gets most people in trouble. Let's see here. Emily, do you think the East Idaho News being subpoenaed for the Daybell trial for transfer is good or bad? Well, I've looked at the information that they've provided. And I just don't think that what they are providing is anything particularly, what's the word I'm looking for? Overwhelming in any particular way. And when I mean that is like, okay, here's all the articles that we've written. It's not like it's some tabloid journal and said, "Oh my gosh, it's not factual," right? It'd be one thing if they were putting out complete bogus stuff, Tammy Daybell abducted by aliens. They're not doing stuff like that. I mean, frankly, the stuff that we've seen from the East Idaho News, they've been pretty good. I mean, I think there's some quality journalists out there from what I can tell. They don't go over the top. They kind of classic newsman. Here are the facts: who, what, when, where, why, right? That's what it should be. And they've covered a lot of it, but who's reading it? I mean, okay, here's our circulation numbers. Here's our website numbers, but other states, it really matters is what's in that jurisdiction. I think at the end of the day, and I don't want to say like I have all the answers because I don't. The judge can do something completely different here. just going back to our change of venue motions here, is that, the first thing everybody says, well, I want to change a venue because everybody's heard about my case. All right, well, that could be good or it could be bad. If they think you're being railroaded, that could be a good thing. These are your people, right? Your community. If you're an outsider, usually not so much good, not so good when you're in a smaller community. I've been hometown by jurors. It sucks because you win the case. Everybody knows you won the case. But basically, you're like, well, you can't come in here and beat up on our district attorney. He may be completely incompetent, completely out of touch with everything, but he's ours. All right. He's our incompetent boob. And so, we're going to protect him a little bit because they will somehow think it reflects negatively upon them. But it really depends on when you get to jury selection. And like I said, I've filed change of venue many times in a case. I've hired surveyors to go out and interview people, the man on the street kind of thing. We talked to 25 people. 25 of them were aware of the case. 6 had formed an opinion. Those 7 said that they could be open-minded. You have to put the person that did that up on the stand to be subject to cross-examination. One time that I've actually had a change of venue granted, and they just moved it to the same judicial district, just a different county. And you just go to county. It was a different side of the, a range on the western slope. And guess what? We found 12 jurors. We brought in 600 just to make sure. But guess what? We found them. And I think that's the kind of situation we're going to run into here. If the judge, look at the Dereck Chauvin case. The judge was asked to change the venue. There's kind of most jurisdictions usually require or preferred that the crime be prosecuted in the county in which the crime took place. Venue, right? But if it's a district court, they usually have statewide jurisdiction. So that charge could have been filed anywhere. Oh, it's a homicide. It could be charged where the body was found. It could be charged where the act occurred. It's a court of statewide jurisdiction. Then the question is, well, is it venue? It's the wrong venue. Think about it. If you have a client that gets caught with a stolen vehicle, well, they could charge it in both jurisdictions, the county where it was stolen and where it was recovered. You'd be charged twice. If it goes over state lines, you'd be charged, those jurisdictions as well. Usually they say, all right, you guys have the lead on this. And sometimes you say, wow, they charged it over here in County A when really the crime occurred in County B. Ooh, but guess what? When I had this in a homicide case once, I could have charged it in another jurisdiction. I was like, but I don't like that jurisdiction. Their jurors are not as warm and fuzzy as the jurors in jurisdiction A, whereas in B, they're a little tougher. So, you talk to your client, you make that decision. I don't think the change of venue motion is probably going to go much of anywhere. Yeah, it's a high-profile case, so what? They were able to find jurors in the Chauvin case. They were able to find jurors in the O.J. Simpson case. They can find the jurors, okay? Most jurors take their jobs pretty seriously. And if the judge instructs them and says, can you disregard what you've heard or read in the media and only make your decision based upon what you hear in court coming from the witness stand or evidence that are presented? Do you think you can do that? Most people are going to say, yes, Judge, I can. I'm going to follow your orders because, well, you're a judge and you're going to try to get everybody a fair trial on both sides of this, right? Yes, sir, I am, So most people are going to do it. So I think the judge will say, all right, I appreciate the evidence. However, let's wait and see if we can actually get a jury. If we can't get a jury, then we'll redo it, declare a mistrial, and start all over again. Sally, darn it, the dog needs to go potty. That's funny. That's funny. I understand. Yeah, and then it has to understand how that is. Got to take the dog out one more time. I get it. And Jen Lowe's like, I vote for not changing the venue. Help. Okay, I'm just looking at some of these questions already. Did I miss anything? There was big coming through here. Let me just take a look here. Okay, new trend. PPP loans are you getting any calls? Are the feds going to get all the frauds? Yes. And I can tell you, I have seen allegations where people have obtained hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars in PPP loans. And well, let's just say they didn't go to the rightful owner. Yeah, we'll see if they come around like that. Question. If you ever needed a lawyer, whom would you hire, dead or alive? Well, that's a good question. I can tell you right now, I mean, I have a very good friend who I think is one of the smartest people I know. One of these days I got to get him here on the show and talk. It's literally one of the smartest guys I know. And he's usually the first guy I turn to if I need legal help. Nothing in the criminal realm, but, business or transaction or, civil kind of stuff. But, we've done cases, co-defendant. He's one of the smartest guys I know. I don't want to say his name because he'd probably be embarrassed, but I've told him he's one of the smartest guys that I know. And we'll just have to see. There's a lot of great attorneys out there. There's some good one. I used to have a book and I can't find it anymore. It's just driving me nuts. And I swore it was called The Litigators years ago. And it was about basically all these great trial attorneys. Most of them were criminal defense attorneys, like Happy Racehorse Haynes down in Texas. He was, legendary. And there's so many. It depends. It depends on the case. You hire. Not every attorney is a jack of all trades. You don't want a jack of all trades in today's world. You just don't want a jack of all trades. You want a specialty, right? And even in, you got specialties. Say, I do criminal defense. Okay, yeah, but guess what? We do a lot of sex assault cases. We do lots of homicide cases. But like in my firm, we've got 5 attorneys. So, okay, got a good murder? I'm your guy. Probably have another associate work with me. Got a DUI? Guess what? I got a guy that can do DUIs in his sleep and wins more of them than most people will ever handle in their lifetime. So it just depends on the attorneys. First of all, you have to find an attorney you feel comfortable with. That's what you need to do. And don't hire the attorney that's going to tell you what you want to hear. I was having a conversation with a guy today. He goes, well, what do I get for that? I'm like, well, you that's what your retainer gets you until you have to replenish it. Well, what kind of promises can you get? I 100% guarantee nothing. I can't. I can't base your entire case where you're looking at a very serious case over, a 5-minute telephone conversation. If you'd like to come in, bring your paperwork, let's talk about it. But even then, I really can't say until I see the discovery in the case. Even then, it depends until I do my investigation of the case. By going and interviewing witnesses, things of that nature. So it just depends. And so if an attorney says, I'm going to do this case, and I'm just, when a client says, well, what's it going to cost me? Well, I can tell you the last one of this very similar nature, is $50,000 to $60,000 through trial. Well, I don't have that kind of money. Well, I don't want to tell you. There's a public defender then. But I'm not going to do it. He goes, well, I want a flat fee. Okay. Guess what? My retainer is $60,000. But I don't think you're going to like that if I get it dismissed in a week. That's why I don't like flat fees. I like the hourly stuff because it's more fair in my opinion, but people like flat fees until, of course, you get it dismissed on the first date and then they want their money back and you say, but it was a flat fee. If I had to go to court 50 times, you would be telling me, well, we have an agreement if I said I needed more money, right? So you just do it by the hour. Let's see here. Rain dance. Be prepared to pay. It's like anything in life, man. You get what you pay for. Oh, somebody's asking a question about the horse. Yes, this was the gift from the lovely Miss Kristen from a, I think, pretty famous sculptor. He's done these like bigger sizes, but this one is good. I love it. I think it, it kind of summarizes defense work, right? You're coming. They know you're coming, but they don't know what's under. They don't know what's inside. They don't know what's there. You have to do what they are not expecting you to do. That's how good attorneys become great attorneys, is by not doing everything they think you're going to do. You got to think outside of the box. And some of the best cases where I've ever got some of the best results from were cases where everybody said, you can't win this case, Scott. There's no way you're going to win this. And you come up with something that nobody thought of. And it just keeps the prosecution on their heels. They had no idea. Didn't always win, but we gave them a run for their money by doing and trying things when, like, hey, man, I got nothing. But the offer is, go to prison for the rest of your life. Well, guess what? I can get that by going to trial and losing. So see you in court. You may win, but I'm going to make you crawl over glass to get a conviction. And if I just rolled over, you'd have no respect for me next time you ever saw me in court. That's for sure. And Jane Doe, it's better to get a good attorney at first because it'll cost a lot more later. Boy, is that the understatement of the day. It will cost you a lot more. People call me all the time. Oh, I can't afford that. And I've had a case years ago. Guy hires me, gets convicted, or he wants to hire me. Too much money. You're too expensive. Okay, fine. Goes with a different attorney, gets convicted. Family comes back. We want to do the appeal. Well, okay, but it's going to be basically double what you did. Well, why is it double? Well, because I don't know what I'm getting myself into, and it's more difficult to undo a conviction because there's kind of a presumption that it was valid and good. To undo it, it's much more difficult. You have about a 2% chance to undo that. And, well, they're like, well, I want to guarantee. Well, there's no guarantee. I can't guarantee you that. And but in that particular case, we won, right? And then they said, okay, fine, we want you to do the trial again, for the trial that we didn't hire you to do the first time. And we paid you a lot of money to undo what you could have done the first time. Would you do it again? I said, okay, yeah, but it's going to be X amount of dollars. Well, that's like 3 times as much. Well, yeah, because I had to undo it, which is difficult. And here we are now. We got to go back and retry it. And you don't want the same result. So we got to do something different than obviously what didn't work the last time. So you only get 1 bite at that apple, ladies and gentlemen. 2 bites, very, very rare. Take your time. Find an attorney you feel comfortable with. And don't hire the cheapest lawyer you can find. That is not going to be a good thing. I'm telling you, it's not good. Every now and then we should probably put pictures up sometime. Things that people wear to court, and I'm talking about lawyers. Things that lawyers wear to court. Like, would you hire an attorney that's wearing like Teva sandals with a suit? I wouldn't. I wouldn't hire him to handle my parking ticket. And I'm not saying everybody needs to wear tailored suits, but at least you could try to do is look like a professional. But hey, that's just me. What am I saying? All right. Wow. Can you believe it's already 7:00? I've already gone over my time, even after I put this big clock in front of me to make sure that didn't happen again. Why do we have to leave you? Well, that's right. We have our Patreon member. So if you're a Patreon, we'll see you there shortly. And if you haven't joined, well, now's your time to do it so that you can get the link. And guess what? We have a couple of things that we do on our Patreon. First, you can call and talk with us. We'll call in. Just us and usually about 50 or 60 of your closest Crime Talk family members, which is always very good. I think I've only become frustrated once because somebody wouldn't let me talk. I mean, after all, this is my show, right? But I didn't mean it in a bad way. I was just like, okay, what do you got? Just kept interrupting me. But I get it. She was nervous. That was fine. Then we also going to do, that's right. Oh, how do I do it? There it is. There it is. The Magic 8 Ball. I think tonight we're going to have to ask the Magic 8 Ball. Will Governor Cuomo resign? We'll see what the Magic 8 Ball says. Kresha K. Easton, thank you for your conscious support and expertise regarding Tyler, JJ, and Charles cases. We thank you so much. Well, thank you for listening. I think we're getting it right most of the time. I think the analysis has been on pretty much, pretty solid here. We'll see. I think the call, isn't it tomorrow? I think they have to make the decision whether they're going to go on the death penalty case for Chad Daybell. I just don't see the prosecutors doing that. I just don't see this as a death penalty case, even though you got multiple dead bodies stacking up. It's going to be difficult for them to say that he personally, participated in, can still be found guilty under conspiracy law. But I think most people, when they do the death penalty thing, they like to know that that's the bad person and they have absolutely no redeeming qualities whatsoever. So I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they're going to go death. I don't think they have the prosecutors that are necessarily that qualified to go death. Although the prosecutor they brought in, I think Ms. Smith is her name. I think I remember correctly. Rachel Smith, is that right? I think it's Rachel Smith. I think she did stuff in Missouri, but I don't think she did death penalty work. Remember reading her resume? So I just don't see it as a death penalty case. But anyway, we can talk about that more on our Patreon show. Once again, thank you all for joining us. I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to watch. And we'll see our Patreons, and we'll see you next week when we go live. And we'll have another video up tomorrow. Thanks for watching Crime Talk.